Hi everyone and welcome. Organic search is in the middle of one of its biggest shifts in years, moving beyond blue links and into AI-driven answers and new discovery models. Today I'm joined by Sebastian Edgar, Liferay's VP of Digital Marketing. Hi Sebastian. And we're going to talk about what good SEO actually means these days and how web and search strategies are evolving in response to that. Let's first get the conversation grounded a little bit. Tell us a bit about yourself, about your professional experience and your role at Liferay.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. Great to be here. Great to be here in Vienna for our sales and I guess digital kickoff as well. So, okay, a little bit about myself. I just started recently as the VP of Digital Marketing over here at Liferay. I was working with you guys for a little bit more on the consulting level, of which is what I've been doing for the last few years. And prior to that, I was the global head of organic discovery over at Square. Not super well known in Europe, but it's, Jack Dorsey's second company, the one that he founded next to Twitter. And before that, I actually worked for a German company, Searchmetric, where I was the SEO team lead.
You have a little bit of German language experience as
yes,
well, right?
I forgot to mention that one. Before Searchmetrics, I was living in Germany, worked for a company called Internations, which is an expat social network. Yeah, so I was there for about 3 years. And so that's actually where I got my SEO career started as a link builder. So do a bunch of outreach. I would literally think of cold, not like cold calls, but cold emails. I would just email people, seriously, I don't know, 50 emails a day, be like, hey, we're Internations, we have this product, this thing, can you link to it, et cetera, et cetera. And I did that for 4 months.
And emails still manually in those days.
Oh yeah, everything
No
manual.
AI.
Zero automation. There probably was some automation, but back then, not much. And the company probably didn't have the infrastructure that would sustain that and hold it anyways.
So maybe next interview we'll do that in German. We'll see. Another time.
I'll need to study a little bit more, but in the future, it's there somewhere. But yeah, I'll have to study a little bit before.
Sebastian, if you look back a few years, search was, as I mentioned, largely about the blue links, about rankings, and steady optimization over time. And that was an approach that had worked for years, I would say. Today, search looks very different, and because it looks different, that has also altered how teams need to think about SEO. How has this shift from the blue links to AI-driven search engines changed what winning in organic search actually means?
Definitely. So if I think back 5 or so years ago, I would say SEO/organic search was very tactical. Even the name itself, SEO, it's all about tactical optimization. It was a little bit less strategic. Also, SEO teams were part of marketing, of course, but very few of them would ever report to a CMO. You wouldn't find VPs of search back then, maybe 5 years ago, but still not that much. And so when I think of the work, ultra tactical, and a lot of SEOs maybe didn't realize the power of working with other teams, didn't realize the omni-channel approach that required, which if I think of today, how things have completely changed, there's 2 things that have changed. So let's take a step back. Let's look at the landscape, how that's different 5 years ago versus today. So one of the things is obviously you have not just ChatGPT, so those LLMs that came on board, but also how Google has changed. So with Google AI overviews. And so a lot of people think that first of all, the LLMs are stealing away traffic or clicks from Google. It's not entirely true. What's happening is you're adding on top of search. So it's a new opportunity. It's not killing off search, but it's adding an additional area of visibility, an additional area of focus, and maybe of potential optimization as well. What is drastically changed, I would say, the work that us as SEOs need to do is the fact that Google has has their own AI products in the search, which is AI overviews. The reason why that's changed is because anything that's informational top of funnel is slowly withering away. So like this is nothing groundbreaking, right? So most websites, they've seen like 30 to 40 or 60% decrease in their organic traffic. Everyone's freaking out about it. And for a lot of companies, revenue hasn't necessarily gone down that much, if at all, because the traffic that Google was bringing to those sites was purely top of funnel, purely awareness. So what does that mean in terms of strategies? Well, number one, and again, this is the one that's nothing really cutting edge that I'm saying here, is less focus on top of funnel / informational. Now, I choose my words carefully. I say less focus, not no focus. This is important because a lot of people in social, a lot of SEO gurus and whatnot, they will say, you shouldn't focus at all on top of funnel. Google is taking that traffic, it's dead, it's gone. It's not dead, it's not gone. It's just a matter of how you prioritize it as part of your strategy. If I look at competitor traffic, you see that for example, their glossary section, which I know we've talked about it a little bit, used to drive like maybe 100,000 clicks, I don't know, like a month or whatever. Now, okay, maybe now it's down to 50 or 40,000 clicks. That's still 50 or 40,000 that still exist.
Because you would have thought it might have vanished completely, right?
And most people would think that. That's exactly right. Most people would be like, oh, that's vanished, that's completely gone. And granted, at Square, like that was one of my key traffic driving initiatives, is creating glossaries, creating top of funnel directories to drive that crazy awareness traffic. The thing that's different is now you do want to find more qualified content sources. That's 100% true. And that probably has led a lot of search marketers to put more effort into finding what are topics, what are pieces of content, what are landing pages that should convert. One great example I'll say is even the work that we're doing internally at Liferay of figuring out what exactly are buyers asking and how do we create content that fulfills that specific need. I would say 5 years ago, was it as top of mind as today? Probably not, and I don't think so, even of the work that I've done. And should we have done it 5 years ago? Absolutely. But what's happened with AI, it's kind of given us marketers, organic marketers, a little bit of a wake-up call to be like, hey, your work shouldn't just be top of funnel traffic generation, but there's a lot more that you need to do to bring in qualified traffic. For the one note I want to say about top of funnel and organic search is, at the end of the day, organic search can still be an awareness channel. Think of brand. You put a billboard on the side of the highway. That's pure awareness. You're driving a bunch of interest to the website. Now, probably 80 to 90% of it is completely irrelevant. You can't really measure it. It's completely irrelevant, but no one bats an eye. Seriously, when companies put like millions and millions of dollars, no one cares, no one bats an eye. But when organic search asks for, hey, can I get $50,000 a year for traffic driving initiatives? Like suddenly we're like, no, it's too much money. It's like, come on. That's a bit ridiculous. So there is a world where that still exists, but yeah, that shouldn't be your sole focus. You want to figure out what specifically the buyer is asking. Think a lot more in terms of how organic search and SEO can play a role with other channels, whether it's like the partner marketing or campaigns. How can you improve your distribution? Meaning that even if you create content based on a organic search lens, how can you make sure that this content gets promoted, can be used for other channels, for other campaigns, et cetera, et cetera.
To boil it down, the playbook has changed, the strategy or optimization playbook has changed, or for those who haven't noticed, they need to change. You've already mentioned some of the, I would say, levers that you can pull. There are so many levers that I guess that's also a challenge in itself, what to choose. But from your perspective, what are your most important or your favorite top 2 levers that are impactful today to make sure you really have like a good global organic strategy?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, obviously I don't want to say like anything that's content strategy, because for me, that's not a lever. That's part of the work that you're doing. So let's go in with the assumption that you're dealing with a website that's technically sound, website that has some sort of content strategy in place, or some content in place. And if I look back at the work that I've been doing as a consultant with Liferay and with other clients, probably the number one that I kept focusing on was site structure / web strategy. Basically, how do you make sure that you connect every single piece of content, every page on the site, like across the board? Make sure that there are no silos. Make sure that all of the pages that are linking to another page is logical, or the ones that either have the highest amount of organic search opportunity, but even outside of organic search, right? If figuring out what are the pages that bring you the most amount of revenue, maybe the ones that are like very, very branded, but that should be linked closer to the homepage, that sort of stuff. One of the clients that I worked with last year, they're not really global, but they're massive, like millions, actually like billions and billions of indexable pages. The only work that we did together is site structure, like internal link optimization and sites. That's it. Like, we're not doing anything else. We're not looking at the technical. We're definitely not looking at the content. Why would we? It doesn't make sense. It is literally purely hyper tactical internal linking web strategy work. And so obviously for enterprise, massive site like this, that matters. But again, I look at Liferay. I think even like the first thing that I did, looked at the technical, looked at the content. Okay, we know we have some work on technical, but then right after that, I looked at the site structure, and I realized like, oh, if we can align specifically what people are searching for with the navigation, with the structure, that's a winning strategy for us. So I guess that's one big number one. For number two, it's somewhat related because it's kind of linking. It's anything that's digital PR and backlinking. The reason I say this as my number two, which might surprise some people, is because these days you need to find ways for these large language models, for you to be included in the large language models, specifically in terms of their training data. And so this has become really, really top of mind for a lot of search marketers. And so it's kind of funny because then backlinking and link building is kind of coming back, which I'm not a huge fan of it. Where it can be fun though, and this is where I think it's interesting, is going back to my comment on question number one of aligning all the channels together. That's another way to think about it, right? It's like partner marketing. Let's just make sure that all of our partners are actually linking to us and talking about us. And whether it's like with any sort of other external campaigns that you have, newspapers and whatnot. So again, it's pretty tactical in essence, but the strategy itself is basically how do we make sure that we have as many people as possible talking about our brand. And that's why number two, maybe I shouldn't say like link building or backlinking, just more external awareness.
Yeah. The disclaimer is high quality backlinks, of course. We're not talking
absolutely
about the renaissance of link farms or something.
Oh, sure. Actually, that's a really good clarification. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Which of the two, you talked about site infrastructure, site informational structure. Which of the two usually is harder to get buy-in?
Oh, interesting question. So if it depends on the complexity of it, because for number one, if you're dealing with site structure, you might need some engineers to help you make some changes to the website. And so that we never know the amount of work that's required until you have the meetings, and then once you get an idea of that, it's like getting in there, getting in like the sprint cycle, making sure that there's resources allocated for you. So it's from that perspective, if the company that you're working for understands SEO, I think that you usually should be an easy buy-in. At least in my experience, most developers enjoy SEO activities. They understand the importance of it. So I guess that one should be pretty easy. Link building, it's a pure budget thing. You're not gonna do it in-house.
Why is it a pure budget thing?
Yeah, because you don't really want to do it in-house. It's not
Okay.
fun. There's agencies that do it so much better. I mean, honestly, like back in my day, back when I worked in Germany, we did it in-house. I hired back, so when I was promoted to team lead over there, I then inherited the program that I was part of, and it was like 5 or 6 interns, rotate like every 6 months. And so we did all of that in-house, but in hindsight, I'm like, probably would just hire an agency to do it and then use the headcount budget for something else. I think that's a much better way to use that money. And it's just also the work is kind of tough. And there's just agencies who have an outreach program in place, they have their processes in place. There was no reason to do it in-house, I think. So pure budget thing, and then whenever you deal with budget, there was constraints. So yeah.
Let's go back to the search results. So from a user's perspective, paid search results and organic search results, they blend together into one experience on the page. Inside organizations, though, sometimes, or maybe you even would confirm more often than not, the two channels are owned by different teams. So probably that can make the coordination, the collaboration harder than it should be. How do you see paid search and organic search working together? What's the ideal balance for maximum impact?
Yeah, for sure. Man, it's one of my favorite things to do, because so often, like, this is something that for some reason people realize it, but they don't think about it more than that. Paid search and organic search operate on the same canvas. Seriously, it's the exact same canvas. It's just obviously then the tool set is different. The brushes are different, right? But you're operating in the exact same environment. So why wouldn't you try to align those two as much as possible? There's so much potential if you do it properly. So there's a few ways to look at it. Obviously, there's the obvious one, which is the paid search, paid branded versus organic branded, like figuring out basically like the incrementality between both. There's a lot of reasons that you want to invest in paid branded, 100%. Like, so for example, if you're in an ultra competitive niche and your competitors are bidding on your branded terms, like, okay, there was probably some logic there. And I think, but again, you want to test that out. You want to test that out, not just in terms of like how much, like incrementality in terms of traffic, but then in terms of conversion. So maybe you're losing a little bit of clicks, but those who end up clicking, like skipping the search results, end up clicking on your homepage on organic search, maybe you're actually making as much money as before. So then you can save tons of money on your paid budget if you just turn it off or minimize it and just at least like testing it. So that's one area of testing and like collaboration between both. Another one is somewhat similar, but more on the non-branded. This is where these two channels can play kind of like a relay race really, really well. So think about like if you've got some topics, especially on the transactional topics, if you've got topics where organic search can't yet rank, this is a perfect opportunity for paid search to come in, basically like help out, be in the search result while SEO can do its thing. Because that's the thing, like paid search is immediate, organic search is going to take a little bit of time. Like you might not have visibility for 6 to 9 months, who knows? So that's number 2. There's actually tools that I've worked with in the past. They automate this whole process. It's super interesting. You connect your account, and so they analyze your rankings and they see where you rank number 1 and where there are no competitors. And then basically what they'll do is they'll pause your ads based on that. But then if they see you not having much presence on organic search, then they'll increase your budget on that one. And it's done completely automatically. It's a great use of AI. Great use of AI, makes it super, super efficient. The third piece where I think there can be a lot of collaboration between both channels, and it's one that I love doing, it's using paid as a conversion testing or just a general testing platform. because again, you can get results much, much quicker than organic search. So then you can play around a lot in terms of landing page design, conversion rate design, just like any tactical thing. You can go crazy there and just really get learnings on how people are engaging with all of your conversion triggers, and see how that can then apply to your main website.
With search evolving, so is how we measure the success of our activities. That's also evolving. The primary signals used to be rankings,
Yeah.
basically. You already mentioned experimenting. People are definitely experimenting much more, I would say, than in the past, and they're trying to understand, what do I have to do for visibility? What's your take on prompt tracking versus still the traditional keyword rank tracking?
Oh yeah, interesting. So I'll still track keywords. A lot of people in the industry are against it. They don't really do it, and they don't really believe in it. I guess I get that part, but I'm someone, I want to get as much data as possible, even if it's not perfect, even if it's just at minimum directionally valuable. I'll take it, as long as it's not the only thing that I look at. So I'm all for tracking rankings on organic search through tools. Obviously, for my own website, I would go on Google Search Console on GSC to get, because that's your own proprietary data, so it's a lot more insightful and accurate. But for competitive research, like, yeah, of course you want to use, like, it still gives you a pretty good benchmark of how you're performing, of how much potential traffic you might get. Again, the tough part is like personalization on search. The results are so personalized based on location and everything. So even if I log into my SEMrush or Ahrefs account, even like for Liferay, actually, like, we might be ranking, our reports say that we rank like number 3 for DXP, which is great. But in some location, the search looks completely different. And so again, what that tells me, it just tells me that, okay, directionally we're doing pretty well for that term. And my view on prompt tracking is kind of the same. It'll give me an idea of how LLMs are looking at my brand, understanding my brand and the results that they're returning. And again, it's just directional insights. The problem with prompt tracking is I'll be honest, like, it's pretty inaccurate. There's so many studies that are coming out these days where basically you can ask the same prompt a bunch of times and you'll always get pretty much different results. And so it comes to a point where it's just really, really, really inaccurate. But I still want to do it. I still want to at least get that benchmark, get some sort of insights from there. And these days too, there's no scale with prompt tracking. Most tools, you're lucky if you can track like 1,000 or 2,000 prompts. But then setting those up, getting the data to make sure that these are actual prompts that people are asking for, we're not really there yet. So there's some value in it, but it's still pretty experimental. Yeah.
Let's go back to the global aspect. We've touched it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So achieving organic growth and scaling it might be straightforward in theory. It's pretty complex in practice.
Yeah.
You have different markets, different languages, different maturity levels of the markets.
Yep.
And you have the local priorities. What's your approach of balancing this? Or what are good things to do here? In Liferay's case, we have a global online presence. How do you make sure each country, each region gets the right attention and focus?
Yeah, very, very complex, I would say, in general. I mean, number one is you need resources. Man, you need resources. You need to have a team in place for that, or at the very least, a good agency to help you with this. But you need to have some in-person folks, like at the very least, like some sort of like coordinators, like marketers by each locale, even just like specialists. Yeah, otherwise you're not really gonna get anywhere there. But the number one thing with this is understand what is the total addressable market for each of these regions. Add in total addressable search volume to this, so it's an alignment of what are we seeing in terms of company of just broader market opportunity and organic search opportunity. But then there's also what is the team size that you're going to be working with and the team initiatives. I can tell you a story back at Square. My team was global. I had people everywhere reporting into me. But at one point, the team structure was a little bit different. I was one of the few orgs in the company that was centralized, meaning every single person in a local market would report into me or into my team. Okay, so like the France manager or the Spain manager or the Ireland manager would report into my team, versus the equivalent, like the field marketers of the product marketers, for example, they would report in to their respective local org, which then would roll up to the CMO, but still like it wouldn't roll up to a product, like a VP of product. You see what I mean? So then what happened is then
Too many cooks.
well, too many cooks, and the budget. Then what they ended up doing is they ended up killing like France budget. So what ended up happening to me, so then they reallocated people from France like elsewhere, et cetera, et cetera. But because I was centralized, I had no internal resources for France to help me publish pages, help with like product or anything like that. And so our ability to roll anything out for France became very, very, very limited. And that's a lesson, honestly, that I learned kind of the hard way, of making sure that you can build your own team, but if your partners are not aligned with how you built your team, you're not going to be set up for success. So that's number one. And then number two, let's just say everything's aligned in the company. Everyone's going to want your attention. I think this is the tough part. And I'm seeing that even at Liferay right now. I started as VP and I'm getting a bunch of different Slacks. I'd be like, oh, great, you're here. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And so I have to be the bearer of bad news, be like, look, I would love to, and we will help you 100%. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. We have our priorities right now, and this is our P0, this is our P1, this is our P2. And same with the markets. These are our priority markets, and based on this and this and this data. And this is when we think we will be able to provide support based on the scale of our team. So it's a balancing act of all of these different factors.
You already answered my follow-up, because I was going to ask you, how do you keep the regions on board when you have to say, yeah, but not right now?
Yeah.
Prioritization.
It's a tough one, because like you never want to say no, and you want to grow the company globally too. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to deprioritize a country, because I know that if I deprioritize it, I might not be getting as much as I could from that country. So even I don't like doing this, but it's just a reality of the resources that you have. But then that's why also you have to be smart with how you balance internal headcount and agency headcount. Maybe there's something that you can do with, because an agency can help with some of the smaller quick wins. Maybe a like tier 2 market just needs some help with some content localization or content creation, whatever. That's an easy win where you maybe can engage your company, your agency to help out with these. So maybe it's figuring out also what are the quick wins and the smaller levers that you can pull to help out the other markets without like tearing your hair apart and using all of your bandwidth.
Sebastian, to close things out, I'd like to go to take this back to the day-to-day reality and activities of being a marketer right now. And I'd like to ask you the obligatory AI question.
Of course.
What is your favorite and must use of AI to become a better marketer?
I guess my current favorite is anything that's vibe coding. I'm a huge fan of just using Vercel, V0 by Vercel, because in two different ways. Number one is, generally I'm a very visual person. And so I need to see an idea reflected just in some sort of diagram. That's just how my brain works. And so what Vercel or any of these vibe coding apps, what they've allowed me to do is visualize my idea. So think about like anything CRO, or like we're designing a landing page. You can put the entire structure in a Google Doc. My brain, it just won't work. Like I will not be able to see it. I will not be able to understand it. And so what vibe coding has enabled me to do is put in that structure, give requirements and whatever, and then actually see how it looks like. I used to do this manually. Before vibe coding came, I literally would do it manually. I would just do like in PowerPoint and
Or wireframing.
but that's exactly right. Like that was the only way I could work. And right now, especially if you're a web strategist, I think it's indispensable. You have to do it because it really, really helps. And every time I've done that, even at Liferay or with clients, like immediately the light bulb comes on. It's like, oh, yeah, now I see how the page should look like. Oh, now I understand your strategy. That makes sense. Okay, let's do it. So I've seen a lot of success from there. The other one, pretty similar to this one, but it's just from a notes summarization. It's just an easy way to create more. Maybe let me take a step back. For a previous client of mine, I created this entire presentation on AI search. And what I decided to do is I basically just fed in all my notes. I wrote down all my notes and everything like that. And I just fed it into Vercel and I asked it just create slides, but not just create slides, visualize all of my notes. And it did it in such a perfect way that I was just able to add the screenshots to the presentation and then present it to the client. Because what it did is it structured everything just so perfectly and it just made it so visually appealing. So I'm a huge fan of that, and I think every marketer should be using it in their day-to-day. Yeah.
Vercel, guys out there. Sebastian, thank you very much for your great insights. I really enjoyed this conversation. We'll have more in the future, and thanks for being here.
Love it.
See you soon.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.